real quick in this one, I want to just take a few minutes and talk about range. Range is one of those things that gets said so many times. Oh, how do you find range? Highest minus lowest, find the range, but no one ever actually says, what does the range show you? And people say, oh, it shows you the range of numbers. Really? Okay, what is that telling you when you look at the range of numbers in a set? What the range actually does is it shows how consistent the average is, or how consistent a person is to the average, or how close the person is to the average. So let's take a look at three people, and I think the easiest way to do this is points. Think of basketball. Okay, Bob, he averages 24.2 points a game. So he's the highest out of the three. Jack averages 18.7. Doug averages 15.6. If you look at this straight off and say, who would you rather have on your team? Bob, Jack, or Doug? I think you'd be silly not to say Bob. Bob averages 24.2 points. Average is one thing to tell who's the best, who scores the most points. But range also helps you to determine how consistent that person is. Let's take a look at Bob's range. Bob's range, highest points minus his lowest points. His highest was 32 minus 0. His range is 32. So let's take a look at this on a number line. I'm going to put dots where Bob scored. Bob's average is 24. So somewhere in here is his average. Bob's lowest is this. Bob's highest is this. If I would fill in his points, a lot would probably look like this somehow. Of all the points that he scored, all the different games. But what you have to realize is, what does Bob have the potential to do? He has the potential to join your team and score 0 points. He's very, very, very inconsistent. The higher the range, the more inconsistent somebody is. So yeah, Bob has a high average, but his range is very big. He could score 2 points, or he could score 29 points. If you remember Allen Iverson from the Sixers, now this was a couple years back, Allen Iverson was very similar to Bob. He could have a very low night, but he could also have a very explosive night. Let's take a look at Jack. Jack averages less, but his range is a lot less. 25 minus 14. So Jack's highest was 25. His lowest was only 14. His average is somewhere around 18.7. So that means he's more consistent. More of his points are all around his average. So you look at the bigger picture, Bob was more spread out. Jack is a little more consistent. Doug is the last one. He averages 15.6 points. His highest was 17. His lowest was only 13. Take a look, his range is 4. So what this picture shows is how spread out the person's days points are. Bob, very sporadic, very spread out. Yes, he scores more, but they're very spread out. Jack, a little more consistent. They're closer together. His average is a little lower, but they're closer together. Doug, very close together, very consistent. He only scores 15, but you can bet that most nights he plays basketball, he's going to score around 15 because he doesn't waver or vary very much. So this is what the range helps people know. Is the person consistent? Imagine test scores. Imagine your test average is a B. What if your range was 50? Is that good? A range of 50 points. Let's say the highest you got was a 100. If the range is 50, 100 minus something is 50. Oh, it'd be 50. So that means your lowest was 50. Is that very accurate to bounce back and forth between 50 and 100? That's what range does. Tells you how close the numbers are to the average. High range, very inconsistent. Low range, very consistent. So you have to answer the question, who would you rather have on your team? Bob, the chance to score a lot or score none? Jack, somewhere in the middle? Or Doug, someone who's probably guaranteed to score close to 15? You have to decide.